So the Mather Homestead is a historic home. It was built in 1778. It was both raided by Tories during the Revolutionary War, was here during the 18th century and 19th centuries, and then later was the home of Stephen Ting Mather, who founded the National Park Service. So it touches so many different eras of history.
Anybody visiting the Mather Homestead today has to understand what it was like to live in a home like this. It's a real social statement about what society was like. This family was totally self-sufficient. There was a barn across the road, not in the location that the current barn is built. And in that barn were the horses, the cattle, the swine, the chickens, and all of the necessary ingredients for this family to survive. The farmstead was about 100 acres, and that's what it took to support an average-sized family back in those days. Also remember, in this house, Deacon Joseph and his wife raised 11 children. This is the keeping room where everything of importance that went on in the family in terms of daily life took place. The rest of the space, the dining room, the sitting room, and the 2 bedrooms upstairs were the extent of this house.
The Mather Homestead stayed in the same family for 8 generations, which is one of the things that makes it so remarkable. It stayed in the Mather and then McPherson families. The McPherson family passed it to the foundation in 2017 with the request that we open it as a home that could be enjoyed by all.
My mother hoped it would always stay in the family, and we thought maybe it would skip a generation and go down to the next generation, my children or my brother's children. But it didn't seem that it was just the right thing for them, although they loved the house. They have a very special feeling for this place.
I always felt this was home. We always came back here somehow. You can't help it. You're just drawn to it.
Really, the house is almost a mirror of the history of our country.
But now along comes Deacon Joseph Mather.
Was a farmer, and this was a farming area, of course, in the early 1700s. And, he went off to fight in the Revolutionary War, but would come back to take care of his farm.
He comes here in the middle of the Revolutionary War, builds a house, then joins the local militia, fights in the Revolutionary War in an area that is still half Tory, loyalists, and, I might add, is threatened by British with easy access to the coastline of Connecticut by rowing across Long Island Sound with raiding parties, one of which came into this home, this very home, where we're sitting, looking for silver and valuables to take back to Long Island, raided this house when Deacon Joseph was away fighting with the militia. His wife had fortunately hidden the valuables in the house in 2 places, one of which was in the well outside, which the raiders found. But the second was in the highboy in the dining room that had a hidden compartment at the very top, which they never found. One of the great ironies is that before they left, they made Mrs. Mather cook them dinner, harmed no one, packed up the valuables, headed back to Long Island Sound, and rode back to Long Island. Let's roll the clock ahead a little bit.
My grandfather being involved with the house, he was born in 1867, so in the late 1800s he was getting involved in his business.
As the story goes, Stephen Mather retired from his business and said, what am I going to do? Rekindled his relationship with those that were interested in preserving the environment. He got in touch with a friend of his who worked in the Wilson administration. By this time, Woodrow Wilson was president, and expressed great interest in doing something with all of this land that had been set aside back during Teddy Roosevelt's administration. and it was unkempt. It was inaccessible. There were no roads. There were no facilities. And Stephen Mather said, let's do something about this. And as the saying goes, the Wilson administration said, don't talk about it. Why don't you do it? And so that's how Stephen Mather became the first director of the National Park Service, and literally rejuvenated America's national parks, spread the national parks from the west to the east, and it's the reason why to this day you can't walk into one national park without there being a portion of that park dedicated in the name of Stephen Mather. So what a family. It's not just Deacon Joseph, it's not just this homestead, it's the whole story of a family that were always pressing the frontier, always willing to do something different, always willing to contribute to their community. And we're very successful in doing so.
So the first thing we did was open up the main house and begin restoring it. We've been working on the gardens. We've added an herb garden. We restored the cottage. And then our biggest project has been building a barn, which is a new education center that will allow many more school groups to come in.
I think you're doing everything just right, and opening it up to children to know the history and of the Mathers and of the Revolutionary War time when the house was raided by the Tory soldiers. I think that's very interesting, and children would be excited by that. But
yes, well, we think that that this is what our parents would have wanted if we were not going to live here ourselves. That this is what is the right thing to have done.
And I think especially our mother would be happy, don't you,
Yes,
Jane?
exactly.
Here we are, right on the edge of New Canaan and Darien and Norwalk, with this amazing piece of American history. And this is really a community and volunteer organized and run operation. We are just getting started, and we look forward to getting everyone involved.